So welcome. I'm Dr. Barry, and welcome to A Place for Healing. Tonight's talk is called How to Create Sustainable Change in Your Life. How many of you have wanted something to change, maybe in your life or your body, and it just doesn't seem to change? And no matter what you do, it doesn't change. So we're going to be looking at all these things tonight and why. And come and talk about solutions and strategies that whenever you want to change anything in your life, you'll have the tools to do it. And if it doesn't work out, you'll know why, so that you can change that. Okay? So to start, we're going to look at some core principles first. You have some understanding of what gets in the way of change and what's necessary to make a change. The first thing I want to talk about is I like to call the reality of realities. Everything in the universe, all the stuff you can see, touch, feel, it's energy and space. So when we look at a human body, the reality of realities is this thing is a collection of atoms floating around in space, held together by energy and coordinated by some intelligence that puts it all together. Those atoms are coordinated into molecules, which are coordinated into tissues, which are coordinated into organs, which are coordinated into organ systems, and it all seems to work magically. We have our circulatory system made up of our heart and our arteries and veins, and it pumps every second. We have a digestive system of our stomach and our intestines and our liver and all the different parts of our digestive system that take the food and water we eat, digest, break it up into all its parts, and make more of us with it, and get rid of what it doesn't need. Right? Then we have our skeleton that provides our structure. We have our endocrine system, which manages all the chemistry in the body, our hormones and the glands. We have our immune system that fights off invaders. But all this is just atoms floating around in space, held together by intelligence and coordinated into this, doing all of that. Pretty amazing, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we are. The atoms in our body are replaced at least once a year. So the atoms in your body right now are not the same atoms you had in your body last year. And every human cell of the body, except the brain and the spinal cord, dies off and is replaced at least within every 7 years. So if you have a problem in your system that's older than 7 years, there's no reason that problem should be there, because all the atoms and cells of the body have been replaced by new ones. Why do we have these problems 12, 20, 30, 40, 50 years? So what coordinates all the other systems?
The nervous system.
The nervous system. The brain, spinal cord, and nerves is what coordinates, manages all the other systems. You eat an apple, are you really thinking about taking the proteins and the carbohydrates and the sugars out and putting them all in the right place? So all of our behaviors, all of our movements, all of our body functions coordinated by the nervous system. Our nervous system also impacts our perception. Now we see through our eyes, and we hear through our ears, but we see and hear with our nervous system. The eyes take the light, goes through the optic nerve, and the brain translates it into sight. There's vibrations in the air, it hits our eardrum, which puts a vibration into our auditory nerve, which goes to our brain, and our brain interprets it. How we experience the world, we experience through our nervous system. And how we respond back is determined by our nervous system. Now, what determines that? Have any of you ever played a guitar or a piano? It has strings on it, right? Little knobby things on the end. Those little knobby things on the end change the tension in those strings, and they all have to be at just the right tension in order for the strings to play the right note when you play it. If they're too loose or too tight, you get the wrong note and you get noise. But the nervous system works exactly the same way. But depending on how your nervous system is tuned, if there's too much tension, too little tension, will determine the way you behave and the way you perceive the world. So I'll give you an example. If I'm tuned to this, how do you think I'm going to experience the world? What would you assume about me and how I feel?
Or tired. Yeah, tired.
Maybe a little depressed. Frumpy.
Just kind of
Defeated, maybe?
Old.
defeated.
How many people do you see like this?
Ooh,
A lot.
yes.
Tail tucked, just curled around the heart, head forward. This is a certain tuning, and it has a certain experience of life. Here is a Charlie Brown cartoon that demonstrates this beautifully. Charlie Brown says, "This is my depressed stance. When you're depressed, it makes a lot of difference how you stand. The worst thing you could do is straighten up and hold your head high, because then you'll start to feel better. If you're going to get any joy out of being depressed, you've got to stand like this." Versus this. You see somebody walking around like this. What do you feel about them? How do you think they feel?
Confident.
Confident,
It's
yeah.
a different tuning. Let's do another one. What about this tuning?
You've been watching me.
Maybe a little annoyed.
Annoyed?
Yeah, annoyed.
Can you feel a difference? These are all patterns as a chiropractor I see in everybody's spines. What about this tuning? What about this tuning? You ready?
Oh,
Yeah, it's like that
Give
can
me
go
one
over.
second.
I can even add this.
Guarded.
That's me right now.
Closed off, yeah.
This is all putting different tensions in my spine that you can feel, and you interpret how I feel. So how does these different tunings happen? From life.
Life experience.
We're born and we have experiences. And some of those experiences are wonderful and some of them suck. Right? And in biology in general, with life, how an animal and a species adapts determines the health of that animal and that species, how well they adapt to the stresses of the environment. If I have trauma after trauma after trauma, my body is going to adapt by going into defense to protect itself. In 20 years of these traumas, I might start having a life with absolutely no trauma. And life is going great, but my nervous system is so tuned to trauma that no matter how good things are, I'm going to experience life like it's a threat. If there's something you want to change, and your nervous system is locked in the way that you're trying to change it from, it's very difficult to make that change. How many of you have had a traumatic event in your life that at the time was completely horrible and you never thought it was going to end, but now looking back at it, you got growth and you became wiser and you learned something because of it?
Yeah.
In the moment when we experience anything, the brain asks a question of, can I handle this?
Mm.
Do I have the resources, physically, emotionally, mental, to deal with what's in front of me? If the answer is no, the body goes into a stress response within the body, also called fight or flight, also called defense, which is an animal, primal, automatic thing the body does to fight this thing or run away, to survive. Let's say a bear jumps out at me in the woods. I gotta fight this thing or run away. And very often the body can get locked in that response. And 20 years later, my body's still reacting as if I'm being chased by a bear. And I haven't seen one in 20 years. So the phone rings, every time the phone rings, I'm being attacked by a bear. And I don't even remember being attacked by a bear. It's actually physically tuned to it. There's a certain tension that's in the nervous system, just like a guitar string. And it's locked there. Now, what if we do have the resources to deal with that stress that's in front of us? This is where we grow. I'm going to talk about stability and instability. So if I'm standing right here, I'm stable. But am I going anywhere? As long as I stay stable, I will be here forever. And I will die in this spot. In order for me to move for a moment, I got to get unstable. And then I'm stable again. And then I get unstable, and I'm stable, and that's walking. Unstable, stable. Unstable, stable. Now I'm moving forward. There's no change in your life, and it's rat race or run-of-the-mill, same day, same crap, different day. It's because there's too much stability in your life, and you need to shake it up a little and create some instability. Do something different. Or else you're going to stay in the same spot. You gotta shake it up. Go do something you don't normally do. You gotta change something deliberately, even if it's a little thing. Very often when we want to make a change, we're usually trying to get rid of something. And we want less. You're having money problems, you want to get out of debt. You have pain, you want to get rid of the pain. You're not fit, you want to get rid of the weight. Most of the behaviors that people have is because they're trying to get away from something. They're trying to get less. Whatever our attention is in life is what we experience. So if our attention's always on less, what do you think life's gonna be like?
Yeah.
Depressed.
Just a reminder, you gotta remind yourself to shift to more. It's not about getting rid of weight, it's about getting more fit. It's not about getting rid of debt, getting less debt, it's about getting more wealth. It's not about getting rid of pain and disease, it's about getting more health, more life. I'm gonna make it a real analogy. We got darkness. I want somebody in here to get rid of the darkness. Get less darkness in the room. Does anybody have a strategy for doing that?
Put the light on?
You gotta add more light. You can't get rid of the darkness.
Mm.
Can anybody get less darkness in here without adding more light? You gotta add more light. It's the nature of the universe. Darkness is not a thing, it's a lack. It already is a lack. Disease is not a thing. It's a lack just like darkness. It's a lack of health. You gotta add health, you gotta add life. That's why the medical world out there is so screwed up, is because they're fighting darkness. And doing nothing to help people add more health.
That's neat.
That's what chiropractors do. That's what acupuncturists do. That's what nutritionists do. Meditation teachers do. Add life. As long as you're fighting things and trying to get rid of anything, you're going to have a failing strategy. As soon as you start shifting your attention to, okay, I want to lose weight, but what do I got to get more of in order for that to happen? I have this pain in my back. What do I got to get more of so that pain doesn't need to be there anymore? Getting rid of debt, there's no such thing. You got to add more money. And whatever you got to do to make that happen. Do we want to get rid of pain or get more pleasure? Do we want to avoid consequences or do we want to get more rewards? Going after the carrot or are you being chased by the stick?
Oh,
no.
Now, how we feel in each moment also drives our behavior. You have a very different day if you wake up feeling, yeah, I can't wait for this day. Passionate, I'm excited. Versus, I don't want to get up today. It's going to change how you behave and the results you're going to get. But there's one emotion that everybody could create deliberately that shifts you from sadness, depression, doubt, frustration, aggravation, sadness, depression, to passion, enthusiasm, excitement, inspired, driven, bold, courageous. It'll take you from the lower to the higher. And it's rage.
Oh, weird. I didn't think
Rage. Rage will shift you out of depression. Rage will shift you out of anything that's holding you down. You get pissed off enough, you will start doing what it takes to make the changes in your life that need to be made.
Wow.
this is true.
Look at all impactful people in world history. Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi, and some others, Rosa Parks,
Nelson.
Joan of Arc. What they all had in common was something got them pissed off enough to take so much action and get so out there that they changed the world.
Oh, wow.
If they didn't get pissed off, they wouldn't have done what they did. It's like, enough. I am not going to take this anymore. I've had enough, and now this is what's going to happen. Now, the culture out there doesn't like that. And the culture out there tells you aggression, anger, rage is bad. And they suppress it. The masculine energy is being suppressed. But if you want to create change in your life and you're stagnant, quickest way to create some instability and start moving forward, so look at where things are and get pissed off about it. Doesn't mean you gotta go hit people. And it doesn't mean you gotta go yell at people. Just get mad. You know what? I'm not gonna take this anymore. I've had it. And you could do that, and if you can't, put on the news. Put on the news. Plenty to get pissed off about.
Yes.
The flip side of rage is passion. When you take rage and direct it towards a worthy cause, it's passion. You get pissed off enough, this is what I'm gonna do.
You gotta have that feist. There's a lot of things that you can teach children or human beings. Feist is not one of them. Willpower, willfulness. And out there, just like was what Dr. Berry said before, if you have a willful child, often it's seen as disruptive in the classroom. And they have a medication for that, or it's considered ADHD or hyperactive and supposed to be willful and feisty. And we see it was our son who was willful and feisty. And there have been so many times when he said, I'm not taking this anymore. I am changing this. And I think that's what it takes.
Yeah. I was thinking about when I promoted to battalion chief, because not all the leaders, but the people that I was looking up to lead with integrity and competence, and we had some incidents where I felt like these people that I trusted to be on the outside of the house fire keeping me safe weren't keeping me safe. And that's why I promoted. I didn't want to be a chief. They kept asking me to take the test, and I kept saying, no, I'm not going to do that. And then finally I got to where I looked around and I'm like, no one else is going to do this if I don't do it. And I got so fed up with it that I did go ahead and do it. And it was an amazing experience.
Yeah.
But then I also left for very similar reasons.
Exactly.
To come do what I'm doing now.
Retired fire chief who became a functional medicine coach. Because she got fed up.
Congratulations. Thank you. Yeah.
If you're feeling in the dumps, what do you need to get pissed off about? And how can you take that rage and turn it into passion that'll create the change you're looking for? The next thing I want to talk about is Kaizen. Kaizen is a Japanese term that means small incremental improvements, small incremental changes. It was introduced by Toyota in Japan. Well, it's an ancient principle, but Toyota introduced it into culture in Japan, where they told their company, you know what, we're not going for these big changes every quarter anymore. Every day, we want to see every employee make a 1% improvement. Then the Japanese healthcare system took that on and said, instead of fighting disease all the time, how can we help everybody every day make a 1% improvement? They're still the number one healthcare system in the world to this day. What if every single day you ask yourself, okay, how can I improve my fitness today 1%? The next day another 1%, or your diet. You don't have to do it all at once. And at the end of a year, it's a lot more than 365% because the curve goes like this. So another strategy you can apply in making change in your life is if you have trouble starting something, how can I do it 1%? A little bit of something is better than a lot of nothing. So I thank you all for coming tonight. I hope you got great value out of tonight's talk. I want to hear about some real great positive changes in your life.